This is a city that's one of the best preserved cities in all of Europe and was voted as the best weekend getaway in all of Europe. It's home to the biggest shopping mall. It's got one of the most beautiful cathedrals in the entire world, and it's one of the most visited places in all of Europe. Welcome to Krakow, Poland. We started our morning here in the old town of Poland. We're actually at the entrance of the old town, and we started off with this red brick structure that is right behind me, and you can see it. It's massive, and it's this round shaped thing that sits right on the northern edge of the Krakow's old town. This is the Barbican, and the Barbican used to be the front entrance to the city of Krakow. Everything that we see, the old buildings outside of the old town, that's all new. That's not what was traditionally within the old town of Krakow. This was the entrance, and it said that one soldier once, used everything he could to fight down the enemy soldiers. It's a big sign of Polish resistance, of Polish bravery, and the Barbican has sort of turned into this legendary building. I think today what they do is that they've turned it into a museum, and they include a lot of shows and sort of medieval themed things to put inside the Barbican, but it's still a beautiful building. And to show you what the real Krakow is, that right behind me are the city walls. So this is the entrance, so you would enter through the city, and then you have the city wall right there. You have the guard there letting you in or refusing you entry into the city of Krakow. It's absolutely amazing to imagine that these buildings were around, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, when Krakow was a bustling city where people came to trade and buy things. It's absolutely amazing, but now we're going to officially walk into the old town of Krakow. Now, if you look behind me, that is one of the main streets that leads to the main square here in Old Town Krakow. But you'll notice there's barely anybody here. I think there are probably less than 10 people on this street right now. And you might be wondering what's going on. Why is there nobody here? Is it because it's a holiday or anything? But the truth is, we're just here at 8 in the morning. And when you're here in the city center at 8 in the morning, nobody comes out. So if you want Krakow all to yourself, if you want to see Krakow without the people, come here in the morning. It's the best time to really get the city all to yourself. And just like that, we finally made it to the main square here in Krakow, Poland. It's beautiful, and I said during this time of the day, there's barely anybody here. I kind of have the entire square to myself. Now, there's a lot of things to see here. There's a lot of amazing, beautiful things to see. And the first thing we're gonna start with is this building right behind me. This is Sukciene. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but let me show you what's inside. Now, Sukciene is the oldest shopping mall in the entire world. I mean, it's been around for hundreds of years, and in the past what they used to do is that they used to sell clothes. This used to be like a clothing mall. This is where people would come to buy clothes, and Krakow apparently was quite famous for the cloth and the silk that they were selling at the time. Now today it's a little bit different. Today it's more of a touristy thing. You go there for souvenirs, you go there to buy little trinkets and things, but it's really historic. And when you look at the top of the wall, you'll see all these little crests. These are the crests of different parts of Poland. So Krakow has its own, Warsaw has its own, Wrocław has its own. Every single part of Poland has its own crest, and you can see it along the walls right on top of the sort of shopping mall while you're walking by. It's the history, it's the fact that this is the oldest shopping mall in the entire world, that there's no other shopping mall as old as this, and it's got 2 floors as well. The second floor traditionally used to be part of the market, but today it's sort of turned into a museum But still, this building, it's insane to imagine that it's been around for that many hundreds of years. Right in front of me is one of the most iconic buildings here in Krakow. This is the town hall sort of tower. But if you notice, it's just standing there by itself. Like, that's it. There's no town hall, so you might be wondering what happened to the town hall. Honestly, I don't know. But this is the only remaining tower of the town hall. And you can even see like there's like little diagrams of what it was supposed to look like inside the museum. Now, it's supposed to be open today, but I'm not sure if we can go in. But what I can tell you is one of the oldest towers here in the main center of Krakow, and it's beautiful. And there's also this sort of statue of a metal head that fell off. I think it has something to do with resistance, something about Polish independence, something about Polish fighting, but it's massive. It's really, really tall. There's a massive clock at the top of it. I'm pretty sure that was used as a sign for time for everybody around Krakow, but it was a main sort of central focal point of Krakow hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Now you might be wondering, why are there so many old buildings here in Krakow that have been preserved so well, when that's not really the case in other European cities like Berlin or even Warsaw? Why is Krakow so well preserved? Well, first you have to understand that Krakow used to be the former capital of Poland. So a lot of the big administrative decisions, the big powerhouses were here in Krakow, not in Warsaw. So in the ancient past, sort of the kingdoms, the capitals were located here in Krakow. Second, Krakow was mostly spared from a lot of the bombing during World War II. So while towns like Leipzig, Berlin, and other cities were bombed and destroyed during World War II, Krakow kind of was saved. So that's why the churches and the cathedrals and even the Sukniecie, the market, and even the tower behind me, they were all kind of saved from the bombing. So they weren't really affected and they weren't destroyed during World War II, which is why this is one of the best preserved cities in all of Europe. Now, of course, time for the main attraction that everybody comes here to Krakow for. It's the symbol of Krakow. There's no doubt about it. This right behind me is St. Mary's Cathedral. Now, when you come to Krakow, you can enter St. Mary's Cathedral. You absolutely can. But you can't film it, and they're pretty strict about it. They have a sign at the very front that says no cameras, no videography, no phones, no nothing, and they're really, really, really strict about that. But the cathedral itself is beautiful. It is one of the most beautiful cathedrals on the inside. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you, so you're gonna have to just take my word. But I mean, from the outside, from the spires, from the towers on the top, I think you can tell how beautiful this cathedral is. It's been around for hundreds of years. I think, if I'm correct, it's from the 16th century. And like I said, it wasn't destroyed during World War II. It was not destroyed by bombing. It didn't suffer any of the fates of other churches and other cathedrals in Western Europe. So this is one of the best preserved cathedrals in all of Europe, which makes it exceptionally beautiful, especially historic, and a beautiful place to come to Krakow. Like I said again, when you come here, you've got to see it for yourself. I can't be able to show you this time because I'm not allowed to film inside, but definitely go in, take a look. The stunning sort of designs and the intricate ornations, that is something that you really, really have to see when you're here in Poland. I don't know if you heard that just now, but there was like a trumpet going off. Now, if you listen to it carefully, you hear that it's cut off right after that last note. But what happens is that originally in the past, they would play the trumpet call here. And then that front gate that we passed through there, the guards there would finish off the rest of the tune. So that's why it's cut off suddenly. But it's absolutely amazing. And you can hear now, the echo is playing farther away. It's being played at the gate. So they're sort of recreating what the traditional Krakow sort of culture, the traditional Krakow gates would have worked to signal the closing or the opening of the gate. But it's beautiful, and it's just like, you feel like you're in a medieval Polish town hundreds and hundreds of years ago whenever you hear that. 10 minutes south of, actually not even 10, probably 5 minutes just south of the main square in Krakow. And like I said, Krakow has tons and tons of churches, and this right behind me is just another one of the hundreds of cathedrals here in Krakow. This is Basilica Dominicano. Let's go check it out. Now when you look on the outside, it might look quite boring to you. Red brick, I mean, look at that, right? That's not very fancy. It doesn't look as good as the one in the main town square. It doesn't look as good as St. Mary's Cathedral. It looks quite, you know, scary almost. But when you go inside, that just might be one of the most beautiful churches I have ever seen. The ornamentation is immaculate. And when you go to near the end, the altars, the little wooden sort of, I don't know what you call them when you get near there. And then there's these like beautiful stained glass. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. That might actually be one of my favorite cathedrals here in Krakow. And I don't think a lot of people come here. I think most people actually just go to St. Mary's Cathedral and they don't film anything. They can't take photos of it. And then, you know, that's it. But this is probably just as beautiful, and it is amazing. It's also a different style from St. Mary's Cathedral. It's a lot more elegant, a lot more clean, a lot more white space, and I really, really love what they're doing inside. Now they're currently having mass, but it is stunning, and I know that you've already seen the shots. And even from above, like I said, it looks really, really boring from the outside, but once you go inside, you realize it's amazing. Don't judge a book by its cover, and don't judge a church by its appearance. If you want fresh water inside the main square here in Krakow, not to worry. The government's got you covered with these little things. You just gotta pump it up and then you got fresh water. A few minutes away just south of the main square here in Krakow, and we've arrived to this magnificent building that is right behind me, and it's one of the national treasures of Poland. This is the St. Peter and Paul Church. This church not only serves as a church, as any other church does, but it also serves as the national pantheon. And at the end of the church, there's a place where you can actually go down and you can see some of, you know, the places where some of the national heroes of Poland are buried. Now I think for that you do have to pay like a little bit of an offering, so I didn't really go in. But either way, the church regardless is beautiful. And on the right hand side of the church, there's these beautiful archways. There's just doors, these black doors, and you can go through, and there's all these little chapels that are just on the side that are connected by this one beautiful passageway in. But I think from the shots you can see how beautiful that entire church is. I mean, it is, after all, the national pantheon of Poland, so it has to be something important. Now, what's actually really famous about this church isn't on the inside of the church, we've already seen, but on the outside of the church. And if you look right behind me, you'll see that there are these bunch of statues that are standing right there. Now, in total, there are 12 of them, and these are the 12 apostles, and they're supposed to be one of the most detailed, one of the best sculpted apostles in sort of the Christian world in terms of churches and other religious buildings. It is really impressive how well these apostles are carved. I mean, the amount of detail in them and the vivid nature of like the robes and everything, it's really, really impressive. And to imagine that this church was done so many hundreds of years ago and it still stands today with these apostles is absolutely just mind-blowing. Now, right next to this national pantheon is another church, which you can see right behind me with the beautiful green spires at the very top. That is St. Andrew's Church. Now, what you'd be surprised by is that St. Andrew's Church is really, really tiny. It looks big, but when you go inside, you realize it's just that little tiny area where you can sit down. I think the altar takes up most of the space inside the church. The crazy thing is that that church was finished in the 11th century. That's 1,000 years ago. That is crazy. It is crazy to me that this building has withstood the test of time for 1,000 years. Literally a 1,000-year-old church. That's what that church is. It's 1,000 years old. Now, of course, the inside is beautiful, but it's very, very small. But it's 1,000 years old. What can you possibly expect? but it is absolutely incredible on the inside. These two churches are just right next to each other, and across from them is this little square, which is currently occupied by, I think, some like people who are trying to sell books, some sort of book market, book exchange going on. I'm not sure what's really going on over there. But both of these churches are both iconic parts of Poland, especially these 12 apostles. You'll see them everywhere here in Poland being referenced to, because they're just so important. And you know, they are in front of the national pantheon of Poland. Now, Krakow Old Town is beautiful. You've got the cathedral, the churches and everything, but this is what I really like. This is Kazimierz, also known as the Jewish quarter of Krakow, and it's a completely different vibe. We're currently at a place that is really famous because this is where Steven Spielberg came and decided to film the movie Schindler's List. If you've watched the movie Schindler's List, this is the exact passageway. This right here is exactly where it was filmed, and it's exactly the same. You can even see there's a pajama up there on the top. Those pajamas are the sort of striped pajamas that they used in concentration camps at the time. Now, obviously, this is not where Schindler actually lived, right? It's a Hollywood movie. It's a movie. It's not real life. It's not a documentary. But this place is very authentic. It's not renovated. It's not new. The plaster is falling off the wall. This is as authentic as it gets, and it's very different from what we saw, earlier this morning, but it's just beautiful. The vibe here is just completely different, and I love it. This is the Jewish quarter, and I think there's actually a couple synagogues around here as well, but there's a free walking tour that's going on, and the guide is really, really interesting, and he's very passionate about what he's talking about, so I think I might go follow him a bit. But this place, this is really beautiful. Now this right here is the main town square of Kazimierz, and if that name sounds familiar to you, it might sound like King Casimir of Poland. So why is this town called Kazimierz, and what is the connection with King Casimir himself? Well, apparently King Casimir's dad was having problems with people in Krakow Old Town. So what Casimir decided to do when he took over the throne is have another town here called Kazimierz that would sort of rival Krakow. In fact, this square here was designed to rival the main square in Krakow. In Krakow, there's that square, that central square that we were at. It's 200 meters by 200 meters, and it is the largest in all of Europe. This, at its biggest, was 195 by 195 to compete with what was over there in Krakow. Now, obviously, over time, Casimir realized it wasn't really necessary anymore, so they slowly built up rows and rows of houses that made the square smaller. But it's still interesting to realize that the only reason Casimir exists is to compete with rival against Krakow, which is absolutely insane. What a manipulative king you must be to think about a way to control your citizens by building another town outside of it to outcompete the citizens in your own capital city. But the work with the walking tour is amazing. He's really, really great. I think I'm gonna follow them a little bit more, but this stop here, this is a great stop that you need to make when you're here in the Jewish quarter. Well, after you walk out of the old quarter, the old Jewish quarter, you get to this right here, which is actually the main river that runs through Krakow. It's quite peaceful, not a lot of big waves. You see that there are some boats that are parked here where there are like sort of bars where you can get drinks at night, but it's just really, really peaceful, really, really quiet. And I think the thing about this place is that it's really local. You see locals sort of biking, running around, families walking together. This bridge right here is supposed to be a very romantic bridge. Apparently people will put like padlocks, just like they do in Paris or Rome, right here on the bridge. But this entire river is just really, really peaceful and really, really quiet. Now, I do think that the free walking tour is sort of going on to the other side of the river. I'm not sure I'm interested in going to the other side of the river because there is still one thing I really want to see on this side of the river, which we haven't even covered yet. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to head back towards the Old Town area, and I'll see you guys there. Now right behind me is the biggest and the main castle here in Krakow, and this is right on this sort of hill right next to the river that runs through Krakow. This right here is the Krakow Castle. Now unfortunately we're here at like 6 p.m. and the tickets are sold out by 5 and it closes at 5, so you can't actually go into the castle. I walked around it, it was really nice, but you just can't go into the cathedral. They've got like a chamber, they've got a bunch of different things. We can't see any of them today, which sucks because they're completely closed. But the view, if you can see behind me, that's the river that runs through Krakow, and that is an absolutely insanely beautiful view right there. And it's one of like the few places in Krakow that has an elevation, so you can have a view of the entire city. But it's beautiful. Now, there is one thing that I really want to see here, and it's a statue of a dragon breathing fire. So now I'm on a hunt to find a dragon that breathes fire at a castle in Poland. Wish me luck, but let's go see if it's here. And that's it. That's the dragon spitting fire. Well, as you can probably tell, it's getting pretty dark around here. Those clouds are rolling in and it's getting really cold. I had to put on a sweater because once the sun is gone, it gets really chilly. Oh, and I think that's the clock just marking the hour. And once again, we've come up on an amazing day here in Krakow, Poland. I have to say, Krakow is one of the most beautiful cities I've ever visited. I mean, first off, the biggest town square in the entire Europe. Like, that is insane. 200 meters by 200 meters, and you really get for a feel of how big it is when you're actually there and you realize it. I mean, even just flying the drone above, you realize that is a massive square. It really is big. The cathedrals, the churches today have just all been amazing. And although we didn't get to see Krakow Castle, I was very happy with what we saw in Casimir, joining that sort of free walking tour and seeing the Jewish quarter and seeing, you know, where Schindler's List was filmed. It's really interesting to me. I absolutely loved it. And it's cold. The thing is, I didn't realize it was gonna be this cold in Poland. It's probably like 17-18 degrees right now, which is very chilly considering we are currently in the middle of June here in Poland. So that's obviously surprising, but it's been a beautiful sunset and it's been an absolutely beautiful day here in Poland. This is going to be my only travel video here in Poland, and it's my last travel video here in Poland, for this series at least, because we are leaving Poland tomorrow, so make sure to stay tuned to see which country we go to next. But I love this city, it's absolutely beautiful, and if you're here, you must come and see this place. There are so many cool things. The market area is beautiful, and obviously the Jewish quarter, more rustic, more authentic, but just as beautiful in my opinion. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more food and travel videos. My hands are currently in my pockets because it is just so cold once the sun is gone here in Poland, so I'm just trying to sort of shield away from the wind. But with that, I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye guys.